Hey everybody, so it's time for NHL Games of the Week, where I pick out what I think will be the best and most exciting games to watch in the NHL this week. Before we get into the video, I just quickly want to remind everyone to please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow along for all my hockey content this season and all year round. It's greatly appreciated. So, games of the week this week, there really aren't a whole lot. There's a lot of cross-conference play this week, looking at the schedules, and that obviously doesn't lead to a lot of great matchups. So this is kind of a light week as far as games of the week go, but let's get into it because there are still a few decent ones. Let's start with today, Sunday, December 1st. We've got a couple tonight. Montreal versus Boston. Obviously, I don't think I really need to say much more than that. One of the best rivalries in the history of sports. Original six, division rivalry, just arch rivals. It's Boston-Montreal. And yes, those games haven't, the last couple years, haven't exactly been your typical Boston-Montreal like we think of. But this is a rivalry that could pop off at any time. And given Boston winning the last time they played 8-1, I think we could see some serious pushback from the Canadiens this week in this game. So I think this will be a fun one to watch, and I would not be surprised if things get a little bit heated and it feels more like a rivalry game than the last few times these teams have met. Also tonight, Edmonton versus Vancouver. Two playoff teams right now from the Pacific Division. Edmonton's off to a really good start. Vancouver's playing well as well. Canadian rivals, division rivals, should be a really fun matchup and a great one to watch. And that's a big game. Those are important points on the line in that game. Moving on to Monday the 2nd, we have St. Louis versus Chicago. Obviously that's a historic NHL rivalry. Blues and Blackhawks, they've been going at it for a long time. They're playing in the same division. I know Chicago's not all that great this year, but, they're still going to put up a fight against a team like St. Louis. St. Louis, near, a first-place team, defending Stanley Cup champions, they're going to be looking to make sure that they win games against teams much lower in the standings like Chicago. So that should be a really hard-fought game, important 2 points, and, long-time rivals going at it there. Moving on to Tuesday the 3rd, we have Carolina at Boston. Rematch of the Eastern Conference Final from last year. Two good teams, two teams both in playoff position right now. I think the Hurricanes, are going to put up a good fight against the Bruins. I think either team could easily win this game. I just think it's going to be a close, exciting, fun game to watch, and I'm definitely going to be excited to see that one. And also Dallas versus Winnipeg. Central Division matchup, rivalry game between two teams very close to each other in the standings. This is a big 2 points on the line between the Stars and Jets. Winnipeg has been much better this season than I thought they were going to be. Dallas obviously had the really bad start, but now has ripped through the league in November and climbed back up in the standings. This is going to be a really, really fun game and a good one to watch. This is the first of a home-and-home series between those teams, so we'll be talking again about Dallas and Winnipeg in just a couple of seconds here. Moving on now to Wednesday, the 4th, we have nothing. Only 4 games in the league and nothing that jumps out to me as a game of the week. So now we have Thursday, the 5th, Winnipeg and Dallas again. Second game of the home-and-home series. Everything I said about them the first time still applies. Rivalry game, divisional matchup, big 2 points on the line between teams close in the standings. Doesn't get any better than that. So I really think when it comes down to it, Winnipeg and Dallas are probably the premier matchups of this week in the NHL. Moving on now to Friday, December 6th, we have Montreal versus the New York Rangers. Last time these two teams played, Montreal blew a 4-0 lead on home ice and ended up losing that game to the Rangers 6-5, I believe. So, or 6-4 or 6-5. I don't remember off the top of my head, but they did lose, and that was obviously a very, very tough and embarrassing loss for the Canadiens. I am excited to see this game and how this goes in New York this time. The Rangers have been playing very, very well recently. they've flat out looked good. And you know, that's interesting. Montreal's not been playing well recently. I think they've lost 6 or 7 in a row now. They are really struggling. That bad, blown lead loss to the Rangers was one of the biggest things in the last couple weeks that's really killed Montreal. And I think they're going to be looking to exact some revenge on the Rangers in this game, so it should be a fun one to watch. And lastly, Saturday, December 7th, we have the Los Angeles Kings versus the Calgary Flames. I know the Kings aren't very good this year, but this is a great rivalry. These are two teams that do not like each other, two teams that play very, very physical games against each other. And obviously you have Matthew Tkachuk versus Drew Doughty, which when it comes to individual player rivalries is one of the best in the league, right up there with Evander Kane versus Ryan Reeves. It's just... whether the teams are good or the teams are bad, when the Kings and Flames play, it's a fun game to watch. And it's definitely worth watching in Calgary on Saturday night. I think that game is going to get pretty heated. And I think it's going to be a really, really good one. And despite the Kings, Flames aren't off to a great start either. But despite the Kings being a bottom-of-the-league team, I still think they're going to show up for this game because they're playing an arch rival. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So those are my games of the week for this week. Obviously not as many as we usually have. Kind of a light week in the NHL as far as matchups go. Really, a lot of cross-conference play, which doesn't help. I'm looking for more divisional games and rivalry games, and we only have a few of those this week. But anyway, those are the games, my games of the week, which I think will be the best. I will be watching as many of them as I can. Hope you guys get the chance to watch at least a few of them. And with that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description below. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon and merchandise store are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.